I'm delighted to be here, by the way. It's wonderful to be with you all today. I wanted to start off with where David began us, right? And to tell a quick mobility story, I want to start by talking about my father, my dad, who always, at every opportunity, talked about all he needed was a good, and I always thought job was pronounced yap, okay? I just need a good job, son, a good job, okay? So he talked about his job all the time, right? And here's a man who was born in the United States, raised in Mexico, 6th grade education, United States Army veteran who was a crane operator. He had a middle skill job. And what did that give me, my mobility story? It gave me a home, the same home for 18 years. It gave me a stable income. It gave our family of 10, including my grandparents who live with us, right? Amazing family stability. It gave my dad the opportunity to be a leader in his community, to actually hand out food to people who had lost their jobs. And I remembered he talked about that feeling, right? Of, I never want to be there, right, son? I never want to be there. And gave him an opportunity to raise money for young people that wanted to go on to college. So he taught me about leadership. And so it's no mistake that I would go on to run an organization like Instituto de Progreso Latino. That's what I learned. And we're, earlier I was sharing with Richard that, we're believers in community colleges and big institutions, but it's kind of like tough love. And he said, no, you're kind of like a flea and an elephant, okay? And I said, boy, a flea. And so I started feeling real good about being a flea, because, yeah, I'm like a flea, okay? But except I'm not just any old flea. I got a bunch of fleas with me. And this speaks to Hillary's point about organizing, right? Because the fleas matter. And the fleas can move elephants, by the way, okay? So I happily say I'm a flea. And let me tell you what the flea's done. Yeah, the little flea showed up because we've been in our community for 38 years and said, why is it that people that are adult learners cannot access career and technical education sufficient to enter into middle skill jobs? And we began to learn what was wrong with the system in our city. Behold, it was happening all over the country. We didn't know at the time. We just knew it was the case in our city. That people that were coming from adult learning never really made it to career and technical education. And so we created the pathway. We created the way of doing it. We said, hey, intensify the learning, make sure that the students are supported, help them financially when it's necessary, put them in cohorts, contextualize the learning, right? Partner with the community college. Make them your frenemy. Frenemy, right? No, just their friend, your friend. But sometimes you've got to push. You've got to be the flea, right? So don't be afraid to do it. That's my major message too, by the way. And so if you do that, you can get a mindset change. In our city, I'd say we got a mindset change, right? Our mayor, who I spent 30 minutes with Mayor Daley, where he just screamed and yelled at me, and I just took it. Because once you bite as a flea, the elephant's still the elephant, by the way, okay? So don't think you're anything but a flea. When the elephant starts screaming, you just listen, and then you say, elephant, I could be helpful to you. Let me show you how, okay? And so walked into meetings with the board of our city colleges, with business leaders behind us, to say, you know what, how can this little organization do this and you as a system can't? And by the way, what's the 7% graduation rate? Got to do something about that. And by the way, what about the active involvement of business? Guess what? We do care about community colleges, because the last thing we could do is have those institutions that most support our families not supported themselves. So what do I care about? That's what I care about. And what do I believe, right? I believe that it's quite possible, right, for us to get to a point where There aren't 29% of African Americans in my city living in poverty, and there aren't 21% of Latinos in my city living in poverty, and there aren't 7% of Caucasians living in my city that are in poverty. Why? Because guess what happens? And this is real. When you focus on the betterment of others, you get the betterment of yourself. Don't think for a minute that the way you equalize this is by making everything equal. Actually, if you work on the lower percentages, more people are working. And if more people are working, by God, that 7% of Caucasians goes down, not up. We're not shifting jobs. We're creating new ones. And so let me just say to you, because I'm short on time, I want to be respectful of that, right? Again, we're not a big institution. We're a flea. But what we've been able to do is take 450 people in just 10 years that were below 6th grade reading level, 6th grade, 8th grade. We've got these on-ramps, and we were able to get them within 2 years to be college students, and within 3 years to actually complete an LPN and get a good paying job. And what does that mean for our community? It means $25 million are in people's pockets to feed their families, to buy a home, to have the kind of upward mobility that I had. That's the kind of thing that our city colleges, by the way, is now doing. Organized by sectors, paying attention to the needs of businesses, right? We can get this done. Just let me say, in our city, just in our city alone, 28,000 annual openings that are good paying, livable wage job openings. These things exist all over the place. Only 14,000 in healthcare. We're not filling them. The first place to start, if we want to deal with this, is to get this right in America. We can get this right in America. And so, since it's a JP Morgan Chase sponsored, I used all the JP Morgan Chase data, right? Well, why would I do that? Because it's about alignment, right? So this is all JP Morgan Chase data about the kinds of living wage opportunities that exist in society today. Low-hanging fruit. That somehow, some way in our country, we haven't figured that out yet. Kids out of work, adults out of work. Come on, we can do this. We can do this. 36 million. That's the number of adults in the U.S. that lack basic literacy, numeracy, and problem-solving skills. If we're going to do this, and we can do this, we've got to focus on the population. Make sure that we don't turn more of our young people into the 36 million, but also address the needs of the 36 million, because these are 36 million folks that have gone through our school system, that have actually used Pell Grants at our community colleges and developmental ed and gotten nowhere as a result of it. To do this, we need to focus on the 36 million. And so I'm not going to show you a video, you're just going to see a face. But the reason I have the face is I want to tell you what I think really is critical to making this happen. Leadership, belief that it can actually happen, urgency, and alignment. And urgency, by the way, is critical here. We have got to act like every one of those unfilled jobs is the job that our children need in order to bring food to their families. My father worried about feeding his children for a reason. Because it's a terrible thing to do when you can't do it. And so if you ever think about that for a moment, the act of not being able to provide for your family and have a better quality of life, if you've never been in that situation or close to that situation, try to put yourself in that situation. It's a terrible place to be, and we have to act with the urgency that we absolutely don't want anybody in our society to be there. So let me just finish by saying that I asked my father, I said, Dad, I'm going to go speak. And what should I tell folks? And so I'm going to close with my father's words of wisdom. He said, tell them to get the job done, son. He said, people are counting on you to do so. He said, parents have to work. It's good for them. Children have to see their parents working, son. It's good for them. Tell them to respect their workers. Everyone who has a worker, tell them to respect their workers. And tell them always to advocate for a fair and just wage. We all deserve one. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be with you.